this setup change can make you so much quicker that it almost feels illegal. So what actually makes a car setup fast in sim racing? I get it, maybe you're not into setups, but let me show you a simple way to include them in your practice. I've been sim racing for years and I'm not even that good of a driver, but I'll survive with strong car setups. The faster and the better driver you are, you more to gain from this, but even if you're a slow driver, this could really help you out to become a better driver and get faster at the same time. And if that wasn't enough, it's also the entry into car setups, and I think everybody should build their own because we're all different, we all have different gear, we have different skill level, different cars. I mean, the variables are endless. So okay, enough with the fluff, let's get into it. So to explain you this, we go to Imola, we're gonna pick the Ferrari 296. By the way, this is always important when you car setup building, always use the same variants, yeah? I always use the default track, light grip, 50% of fuel, this is vital. And I'm gonna show you some traction control and brake changes that I'm always pretty much using every car setup. So I've saved the default setup. Here is the default setup that I saved. Load. And I always use 533 on the traction control. And I always use 9 anti-lock brakes. That really works for me. So basically the whole setup is default. Yeah. Let's go through the lap. So what's happening here? I'm driving always when I would, let's say I would go into iRacing at this point, I would always drive the default setup and just do a lap comfortably, not pushing, but just 85%, 90% of my limit. What does that mean? You'll take a corner and you'll brake 10 or 15% earlier. You're gonna be more gentle on the steering for 15%. You're gonna be gentler on the throttle by a little bit of 15%. And this 15% you carry into the whole lap, basically. So you keep control and you can finish corners, hit your braking markers and hit apexes. This is crucial. Obviously, you need to know a little bit of driving, but then again, even though if you're really rookie and you don't know the braking points or whatever, then still I highly recommend you watch the next change after we finish this lap. So what's gonna happen? This is a default setup and it has a pretty high wing. It has pretty high downforce. Now, this does multiple things. It creates a lot of stability, especially when we go faster. When we brake, we steer, we can be aggressive on steering, we can be aggressive on the throttle, because we have that rear wing or like insurance policy for stability, right? But at this moment, the wing is hurting us, because we're losing out on the straight. And it's not necessarily always the top speed, but it's just dragging along, especially when you hit the 180 kilometer mark. So at this point as we're driving right now, 180, now the rear wing really starts to slow the car down on the straight, right? But then again, that makes us our car safe. So now we go to the setup. So we did a lap with the base setup of the game with some different traction control settings. Now we're gonna do the next. We're going to 1, 2, 3, make a lower rear wing, and then we go to the suspension and we do 6, -6 on the right height. This should make the car in the same balance, but now we're just quicker on the straights. And this is gonna start at 180. At that moment, you will see the effect. And on Imola, you have quite some situations where you are there in that limit. Let's have a look at the next lap. You can't really see it now because of the recording. I'm still working on overlays, but the delta is dropping right now. And imagine if you're fighting with another car at this point and you just got that few kilometers extra. How much useful would that be? Now, you saw this first corner section and I'm still really confident in the car. So I still have rear wing, obviously, but the car feels a little bit more rotaty because we're losing a little bit of that rear pressure on the rear wheels because the wing is just less pushing. Obviously, I had to make a mistake here, but then again, I still have now extra speed. So the delta is kind of every time dropping by like a half a tenth after every straight. Here again, we're already on the 180 mark and the car starts speeding up more. There's just less drag in the setup and you'll just get quicker as a result. Now, what I said in the beginning of the video, why is this a good thing for also your driver skill? Obviously the back end of the car just became a little bit looser and that will force you to use better inputs, that will force you to learn better skills with braking, throttle and steering. Because what it's basically doing is, because we have a little bit less rear end pressure, the inputs are going to be more punishing for you. And this is how you, in my opinion, this is how different level setups that I have on my store, if you're interested, that link is down below. But what this does is, if you're like constantly on the default setup and you're just driving pointless laps, I mean, that's fine. I don't really see that as an issue. But if you want to improve, you need to make changes on the car that make it more challenging, but then remove the wing first, because then you will also get rewarded for this on the straight. Then that way you will be quicker. What I see a lot of times with especially really quick drivers, like a lot of times I can keep up with them in corners, but then on the straights, they have so much more straight line speed. And now I just did 3 clicks of less wing, but you can take this even further, right? Until the point where you're losing too much in the corners. Now that is absolutely car dependent, but this change what I'm making in the car setup screen a few minutes ago, that was something you can do for every car in Le Mans Ultimate. But I would also do this in ACC or iRacing and just test it out in your practice sessions. It's really simple. You just remove a little bit of rear wing and you remove a little bit of rear ride height. That's the only thing. I mean, I don't think it can get any easier than that. And if you look at this lap right now, we almost gained a second, right? That's what I said. It just feels a little bit like illegal. Now, obviously, we're not cheating or anything, but if you're not experimenting with this in your car setups, you will always be slower on the straight. So obviously, when you have tracks like Fuji or Bahrain, this could really be beneficial. So yeah, and this was like 8 tenths quicker than the first lap. Now again, the reason why I came up with this change is just to get you started, just to begin with this and experiment with this on different cars. On a 296 it works really well, but I also believe it works really well on the McLaren, and also for the update that is coming. They said like there's gonna be a new tire model, but this is just basic car setup theory. So this will work for every sim, every car. It's just a great experiment. Now, if you went further, so let's go a little bit advanced here. Let's say you did 6 on the rear wing. Yeah, most likely you're gonna add another 6 to the rear ride height. This is a little bit of an aero balance that you have in a car. If you remove the wing, ride heights really are influential for the car balance. I have a million videos about this. And what another addition to this is your brake bias. Most likely, especially when you're reducing the rear wing, the brake bias is probably gonna move a little bit more into this minus as well, because it gets really rotaty on the braking. Now, if you like this kind of video and you really want to build a proper low downforce setup in your car setup building, then I highly recommend, where is it? It's over there. That video you want to watch, because this is just the entry for car setup changes. Thanks for watching.